Today we're going to go over how to add trim to your windows or to your doors or any other area that you need to add trim to. You're going to need a couple of things. First, you're going to need the trim that is going to go around your windows or your doors or whatever and have them cut down to the widths and the lengths. You're going to need a nail gun. You're going to need caulk. But let's go over our nail gun really quick. There's several different kinds of nail guns out on the market. You can get ones that have a battery that you charge and it's wireless and you can go ahead and just charge up the battery and work away. Or there's one that attaches to an air compressor like this one. There's also some that actually plug in to the wall. So I prefer to use one with an air compressor because I don't like having my batteries die in the middle of my work job. So I prefer an air compressor. This particular air compressor is called a Pancake Air Compressor. They come in different sizes. There's some that are gigantic and there's these ones that are really little. I like these ones because they work perfectly for the projects that I do, and I can haul it around my house. I can haul it around to job sites, and it's the perfect size for me. So a couple of things about air compressors is the bigger they are, the more pressure that they hold. This one actually holds 150 PSI, which is great. My actual gun needs 90 pounds of pressure. So it will vary according to your particular tool that you have. So if you already have a nail gun, great. You already know, probably hopefully know how to use it. If you don't, you might want to go test a few and see which ones you like. I like a air compressor because I can also use it on different tools. I can use it on ratchet tools to work on my Jeep. I can also use it on paint guns, paint sprayers. So it's just kind of versatile. You just replace the little head part for it as to whatever tool that you're using. That's the other reason why I like an air compressor. What you're going to want to do is first you're going to see this little valve right under here. You're going to want to close that valve. This valve is actually a pressure release valve and a moisture valve, moisture release valve. And you want to keep that open when it's in storage so that moisture doesn't build up into your tank. This allows the moisture to be released, and you will see that at the end of your project that you're doing, that some moisture will come out. But right now we want to close it. We're going to plug it into the wall. I'm not going to show you that right now because it is very loud. And you're going to keep this plugged in, and you're going to keep your machine turned on, okay? So go ahead and plug it in and turn it on, and it's going to make a loud noise until it gets up to the pressure that it needs to get to run optimally. Once it gets pressure, then it will stop, and intermittently it will go ahead and turn on and make a loud noise so that it can get pressure up. Because each time that every time you use the trigger on a particular tool, that will then release some pressure into your line, and it then needs to build up that pressure again. So a couple of things about if you're going to get a compressor, get some quick release valves, get some males and some females, and just keep them on hand. So that anytime that you get a new tool, you can add it to it, and they just make it so much easier. So this one has a valve on it, this has a valve on it, and you just literally pull it back, and push it in, and it's nice and snug. And then we're going to do the same to the other side. And again, quick release, pull it back, put it in, and we're ready to go. As you see, the tank has two valves. This valve on my particular tank shows me what the pressure is inside the tank. This one tells me what the pressure is in my line. I have a little valve right here, or a turnstile, that then allows me to turn it, and you will see the little gauge go up, and you can see my actual line is getting pressure into it. I know my particular tool needs 90 pounds of pressure, so then I turn it up until the needle is at 90, okay? Once you're done, you're going to then release the pressure in the line, just like that. Turn your turnstile until you don't hear any more air. Then you know that there's no pressure in the line. It's not going to trigger any nails out. It will trigger if you have pressure in your line. Then to release it, you just release that, pull back again, and it comes out. When you're done with this machine, you're going to want to pull your release tab. Do not keep pressure in your tank unless you've got one of those gigantic ones that's in your garage. You don't want to keep pressure in your tank. So you're going to pull that. It's really loud. I suggest you do it in a garage or in a room. If you're going to do it in a room, close the door. It is super loud. I just pull that out until there's no pressure in my tank at all. If you pull it and let it go, it will close up, and then you'll have to pull it again to release the excess pressure in the tank until you see your little needle get down to 0. Once it gets down to 0, you're going to come under here and you're going to open up this little release valve. There will be some pressure still in the tank. Don't be alarmed when you feel the air come out. So release the pressure, and that will also allow the moisture to drip out of this little valve. So don't be alarmed if you see moisture come out of that as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's get going on putting up our trim around our, in my case, my door, and let's get to it. All right, so here we are at our little project. Recently I had a sliding door put in. We had French doors, and every time that I would open up my French door to let my dog out, it would hit my table and it would drive me crazy. So I had a French sliding door put in. I did have trim that was around my door originally, but the framing of the sliding door is smaller than what I had there, so I had to build this out. I had to then re-drywall, re-texture my wall, tape, mud, all that fun stuff. And so now here I am. I'm at the point of putting up my trim back up. So what you're going to want to do, a couple of things to know when you're putting trim around a entryway, a door. Couple of things. One, you're going to want to decide the style that you want, and that's just a personal preference. And once you decide that, you have to decide if you want to butt this up to where it's smooth, or you can have it to where it's just got like a little inset, so that you can, this works really well for if you don't have a square home, like if your home is a little bit older. It just makes it to where you don't have to worry about if this piece of wood and this wall is not going to line up. My walls are good. So I'm just going to, I like them flush, plus you can caulk the seam so that it, is flush. That's just my personal preference. Again, play with it, figure out what you like, just kind of lean it up and say, oh, I kind of like it where it kind of has this little inset. Totally up to you. Okay, so let's get to where you put your trim up. I usually paint my trim beforehand. I just find that I can get the paint on there smoother. I don't have to worry about, slopping it all over my floor and everything else. So I usually paint it beforehand, cut it down, and then put it up. And then all I have to do is put some caulk on it, and then I can just paint those little areas up. So now that we've learned how to use our air compressor, we should have it all set up. Hopefully you guys have it all set up. I have pressure in mine. A couple of things you'll know is on this nail gun, they have a safety mechanism. So this will not fire unless this little piece right here is actually pushed in against the wall. So what you're going to do is you're going to, hopefully you've cut it down to the length that you want. You're going to put your trim up. you're going to then line it up how you have decided you want your trim to be. This is how I want mine. So I usually start in the middle, and then that way I can kind of readjust my tops and my bottoms. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna push in flat against the wood, and I'm gonna pull. Okay, I should have safety goggles on, so if you're all about safety, put your goggles on. I've done this so many times, and I usually have glasses on. I just didn't want to wear them for my video. So I went ahead and put my first nail in. I'm going to then come up here, put my nail in up there, come down here, put my nail in down there. So I just went along this side, the interior side. Now I'm going to come out, and I'm going to do it on the outside as well. I'm going to go ahead, and then I kind of close the gap between my tops and my bottoms. I do my top, my middle, my top, and my bottom, so that I can kind of eyeball where the middle is between my nails, and you're going to want to go in there as well. All right, and that's it. That's as easy as it is to do trim. And I'm just going to continue with the rest of my door. All right, so there you have it. I've got all my trim up. I've got all my decorative trim back up. If you saw in the video, I'm repurposing the frame that I already had. I just had to cut it down. All right, let's do a quick lesson for those of you that don't know how to caulk, because that's what I'm going to do on my trim work now. Here's what you're going to need when you caulk. You're going to need rags. I get them nice and wet, wring them out. You're going to need caulk. Depending on your project, is the kind of caulk that you're going to need. I'm just using basic latex acrylic. I needed something that I can paint and something that's indoors. So I just got, I think it's probably the cheapest one on the market. And you're going to need a box cutter of some sort and your little caulk gun. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your box cutter, and you're gonna cut a 45-degree angle, and you're going to just cut the very, very tip off of this caulk at a 45-degree angle. I'll show you how very little I cut out. My razor blade is dull, I can tell, but it'll work. Okay, so let me come closer and I'll show you how much I cut off. Okay, so literally, I mean, teeny tiny little tip cut off. Okay, you want a little hole. You want a little hole, because you don't want to waste all that caulk coming out of the caulk gun. So if you have a small bead, you can always add more. It's better to do that than to waste it. Okay, so the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna take your little gun, and it's gonna have this little tool on it, and you're gonna take that and you're gonna stick it into the hole so that you can break a seal if it has a seal. Some have a seal, this one doesn't, but I wanted to show you anyways. So a couple of things about when you do caulking is, yours might be a little different than this, but just pull the trigger and pull this out. You're gonna set this into your gun, and you're going to start pulling on it. Once you start feeling pressure, you need to stop, okay? If you, wobbly here, if you're working and you have pressure built up, what's gonna happen once you start working is it's just gonna keep coming out. If you can see that, it just keeps coming out. So what you're gonna wanna do is every time you stop caulking is you're going to push this little trigger on the backside, and that's gonna release the pressure that is in this little mechanism. So then you'll go and you'll caulk some more, stop, pull the trigger, okay? So that's your basic on caulking. If you're not familiar with doing this, practicing on a piece of wood, practicing on a piece of paper towel till you get comfortable with it, that's perfectly fine. The other thing that you're gonna want to have is paper towels. Tons and tons of paper towels and old grubby clothes. I'm really bad about when I caulk, I wipe it off, and sometimes I go like this on my pants, not even thinking, because I usually have my headphones on listening to a podcast or listening to music. So if you see me doing that, sorry. Anyways, so let's go to our project, the little door framing that I have put in, and I will just show you quickly how I caulk. When I put caulk in, I put it along the edges on the outside. I'm gonna put it on my edge over here. I'm gonna fill in my gaps. Wherever wood might meet, you're gonna put it up where wood meets as well. I'm just gonna show you really quickly. So you have this angle, right here that we cut. So see, I almost wiped it on my pants. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that angle and you're gonna nestle the tall part in here and the short part on the bottom, okay? And you're going to start pulling your trigger, and you're just gonna let the caulk come out, and you're gonna run it down, okay? So then I use my finger. I think it works the best. So, and then I just literally run my finger down, wipe the excess off on a piece of paper towel, and then run again until I get a nice smooth bead that I like, okay? And that's all there is to it. I try to go along, like I will run a whole bead all the way from top to bottom, because I don't like to see the like start and stop points, but that's totally up to you. Again, it depends on each individual person. So there you go. Take some practice. But like I said, the curvature of my finger works perfectly. It just gets right in there, and I've tried every tool out there. I like this way. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about when you're doing your caulking is if you run into a situation where you see that it is starting to wrinkle as you're trying to smooth it out, take a wet rag and just run it along your bead, okay? And then take your finger and you'll see that it is softening it up again for you so that you can then work it some more. I take my extra caulk and I put it in my nail holes, just like this, okay? And I kind of smooth it out with my fingers as I go. And then I come back with my little rag and I just wipe off the extra, and that fills your nail holes. So inevitably, you're going to end up every now and again with a nail that does not go in to the wood like this. So if you see, actually what happened was 2 nails got triggered in my gun. So you're going to need a couple of tools. You're going to need this little guy, it's a nail setter, and a hammer. So what you're going to do is you're just going to literally put the head of the nail onto that, and you're going to hammer it in place. I cannot do it with me holding the phone, but what it will do is it will countersink your nail, and then you can just fill it. Here the window is complete. Made a little doggy area for my puppy with my niches and collars and stuff. Floor trim. All of this on my door.